Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. I hope all of you are doing well. So today I'm here again with a new lecture which is based on the poem On His Blindness by John Milton. John Milton is one of the most famous English poets. So let's get started. On this slide, I have written a brief introduction of John Milton, 1608 to 1674. He was born in London. He was a poet, he was a pamphleteer and historian, and he is considered as the most significant English author after William Shakespeare. So, after William Shakespeare, he is considered as the most significant poet, writer, or author. And you should remember one thing about him. It might be asked from you in objectives, section A, that when did Milton get blind? So you should know that he got blind in 1652. All right? So this sonnet on his blindness, he has written this sonnet on his blindness because he got blind in 1652. Okay. In the poem, poet complains about his blindness because he cannot use his talent. He says that he will wait for a chance to serve God. So we find that in this poem, in this sonnet is a poem of 14 lines, I have already told you, he complains about his blindness, that he cannot use his talent properly. What was his talent? God-given talent. He was a great writer, you see, but he couldn't write. Why? Because he got blind. So he says that he will wait for a chance to serve God. Now he is saying that he is waiting, or he waits for that chance, that opportunity to serve God, to write something for God even after getting blind. Could you see in the brackets? It's written that Milton got this chance. What kind of chance? To serve God, to write about God. And he produced his greatest works, Paradise Lost, Paradise Regained, and Samson Agonistes. So, Paradise Lost, Paradise Regained, Samson Agonistes, he produced these greatest works after getting blind. Okay, so John Milton was a poet and he has written this sonnet on his blindness because he got blind in 1652. But you should know that he has produced his greatest works after he got blind. Okay, as far as Paradise Lost is concerned, it is an epic, okay? So I have told you when I was teaching you kinds of poetry. Epic, that is a long narrative poem with grand and sublime diction. So Paradise Lost was written there in the examples in epic. All right? Okay. Dear students, before starting this poem, I want to discuss one important thing with you, and that is that there is a difference between Miltonic sonnet and Shakespearean sonnet. Generally, you should know that sonnet is a poem of 14 lines. All right? But within that, we know that Shakespeare was a poet. He has written sonnets. Milton was a poet as well, so he has written sonnets. But there is a difference as far as this division of lines is concerned. So if you could see on the left side, Miltonic sonnet. Miltonic sonnet written by John Milton. 8 plus 6 is equals to 14. Octave and sestet. Octave, 8 lines. Sestet, 6 lines. So this is how it is divided. 8 lines. In first 8 lines, Milton complains about his blindness. Fine. And in the next 6 lines, there is an answer or solution to that complaint. So what kind of Miltonic sonnet is it? You can say that as far as Miltonic sonnet is concerned, or the division is concerned, there are 8 lines and then 6 lines. What kind of division is it? This is divided on the basis of argument. In the first 8 lines, Milton complains about his blindness or any issue. But in the next 6 lines, there is always a solution, conclusion, or answer to that issue or that complaint. Alright? I'm not talking about this general division, that how the lines are written. I'm talking about the context. I'm not talking about the form. I'm talking about context, theme, that in the first 8 lines, there is one idea, like any issue, any problem, any complaint, and then in the next 6 lines, there is always a solution to that problem, that issue which was discussed in the first 8 lines. Okay? Now, look at the right side, Shakespearean sonnet, written by Shakespeare. What kind of division is it? 12 plus 2 is equals to 14. There are 3 quatrains, 4 lines each, 4, 4, 4. Alright? So 4 plus 4 plus 4 is equals to 12. And there is one couplet, and couplet has 2 lines. So 12 plus 2 is equals to 14. So he describes his ideas in quatrains, 4, 4, 4, and in that final couplet, in those final 2 lines, there is always a solution or conclusion. That is a conclusion. Okay? So this is how the sonnet is divided, not by form, but by context, by theme. Alright? So you should know this. The difference between Meltonic sonnet and Shakespearean sonnet. Rather, you can memorize this formula. For Miltonic sonnet, 8 plus 6, 14, and Shakespearean sonnet, 12 plus 2. Okay? So I hope you are getting me, but still if you do not understand, you can ask me in the WhatsApp group. Alright? Okay, on this slide, words and meanings. Light. In this poem, or you can say the contextual meaning of light here is sight. Okay? Then you will come across 3 words which are written on the board. Which means before, doth, and over. Which means before, doth means does, and over means over. So basically, which are written on the left side, it is archaic language. Archaic language is old-fashioned language, and you will come across such words in future as well when you will be reading poetry. So this is archaic language, old-fashioned language. All right? And the last word is chide, which means to scold. All right? Okay, so let's proceed. Dear students, kindly open your books. It's page number 18. Now we will formally start this poem on His Blindness by John Milton. When I consider how my light is spent, light, sight, spent, gone. He talks about his blindness, that how his sight is gone. When I consider how my light is spent. Are half my days in this dark world and wide, before half my days in this dark world and wide, and that one talent which is death to hide. What was that talent? His talent of writing poetry. Lodged with me useless, lodged remained with me useless, though my soul more bent. Okay, now in these lines, Milton says that, or you can say he talks about his blindness, and he thinks that how his sight is used up, just like a lamp which has burnt all its fuel, and now he feels useless. Why? Because his talent of writing poetry, it's nowhere. It is useless because of this blindness. And he feels that his soul is more bent. Why? Because of the burden of duties imposed upon him by God. So, when I consider how my light is spent, how my sight is gone, Before half my days in this dark world and wide. Now the world is dark for him because he cannot see. And that one talent which is death to hide means that it will hide with the poet's death, this talent of writing poems. It will be no more. Why? Because he got blind. Now this world is dark for him. Lodged with me useless. Now this talent has remained useless, though my soul more bent. And his soul is bent. Why? Because of the burden of duties imposed upon him by God. Next. To serve there with my maker. Maker, you see M is capital. It means it stands for God, maker. M is capitalized. So it means something divine, God. To serve there with my maker and present my true account, lest he returning chide. Lest means to avoid the possibility of or to fear that. Fine? Lest. It's a conjunction. Okay. To serve there with my maker and present my true account, lest he returning chide. So, he says that he feels the burden of these duties which are imposed upon him by God. And now he wants to serve God. Why? Because God will ask him. You see, lest he returning chide. He wants to present his true account in front of God because God will ask him whether he has accomplished his duties or not. You see, there are certain kinds, you can say, of responsibility upon our shoulders. And we have to fulfill it. Why man is born? What are we doing in this world? Of course, we have certain responsibilities. And we will be asked by God on the day of judgment that whether we have accomplished all those duties or not. So, same is the case here. Milton is saying that he feels this burden of duties imposed upon him by God, and now Milton wants to serve God. Why? Because God will ask him whether Milton has accomplished or fulfilled his duties or not. Okay? Okay. Doth God exact day labor light denied? I fondly ask, but patience to prevent. Now he says, he asks himself, Milton asks himself that whether God wants him to do the work of a man who can see, but his patience prevents him to complain. So, in the first two lines, it was written that he feels the burden of the duties imposed upon him by God. Now he wants to serve God. Why? Because God will ask him whether he has fulfilled or accomplished his duties or not. Then he asks himself, then Milton asks himself in the next two lines, doth God exact day labor light denied? He asks himself that whether God wants him to do the work of a man who can see. I fondly ask. See, I foolishly ask. But patience to prevent. But his patience prevents him to complain. Okay. That murmur soon replies. Murmur, murmur of complaint. Murmur, faint voice. Replies, God doth not need, God does not need either man's work or his own gifts. Who best bear his mild yoke, they serve him best. Mild yoke? The burden of duties imposed on man. And yoke is a wooden cross piece put over the shoulder of cattle. So just like that, there is a kind of this burden of responsibilities on man's shoulder. Okay, so that's why this expression is used, mild yoke. All right, they serve him best. So these lines means that poet's patience or that faint voice of complaint replies him. That faint voice, inner voice, replies Milton that God does not need either man's work or his gifts, and those who bear the burden of duties imposed upon him by God, they serve God best. So those people who perform their duties well, wholeheartedly, they serve God well. Okay? And with patience, man can serve God well. Okay. His state is kingly, thousands at his bidding speed. His state is kingly. The state of God is wide. ठीक है? God's kingdom is very wide, and thousands of people over land and ocean are working for him. Thousands of people are under his command. So this H is capitalized, him, his. So it means that it stands for God because it is capitalized. So his kingdom is very wide, and thousands of people over land and ocean, they are working for God. So number of people are under God's command. And post over land and ocean without rest, they also serve who only stand and wait. So thousands of people over land and ocean without any rest, they are serving God. Okay? They are worshipping God. They are working for God. And those people who have patience, who are patient, those who can wait for their chance, for their opportunity to serve God, it means that they are best people. So, in the same way, Milton should wait for his turn, for that chance, for that opportunity, when he will be able to serve God, when he will be able to worship God. And we know that ultimately Milton got this chance. Though he got blind, but he produced his greatest works during his blindness. And this was God's mercy on him. All right, so this was our sonnet on his blindness by John Milton. I hope you understand that, and I hope you also remember that division of octave and sestet. I mean 8 and 6. 8 plus 6 is equals to 14. That's how Miltonic sonnet is. Okay, girls. Now here I want to discuss something with you. There was this word talent used in this sonnet. Okay, talent. If you could see in the third line, and that one talent. Though apparently this talent means talent of John Milton, his talent of writing poems, because he was a great poet. But let me tell you the background, that it refers back to the story that there was a man, and he was a rich man, and he went abroad. And before leaving, he left 5 talents with one servant, 2 with another, and 1 with the third. Okay, 5 talents with one servant, 2 with the second one, and 1 with the third one. I mean, you can say left 5 talents with first, 2 with second one, and 1 with the third one. All right? Okay. And he asked his servants that they should use their talents in his absence. And when he will return, he will ask about those talents. So what happened? Ultimately, the first 2 servants made the best possible use of their talents. But the third servant, he was afraid of losing his talent, so he hid it. So he didn't make the possible use of his talent. And when that rich man returned, he praised the first 2 servants because of good use of talent, but somehow he scolded the third servant that why didn't you use your talent properly? So that's why Milton is saying that in the same way, God will scold him. You see, chide, this word was used, he returning chide. Chide means scold. So in the same way, God will scold Milton that why didn't he use his talent in the world? So that's why Milton is praying that he must get this opportunity or chance to serve God even after getting blind. So one should make a possible use of his talents, whatever the situation is. All right. So this is the message. So I really wanted to discuss this background with you. So you should keep it in your mind. And yes, you should not forget this date that Milton got blind in 1652. All right. And inshallah, in WhatsApp group, I will share question answers. We will do the exercise just like we do normally. So take a very good care of yourself. Stay blessed. Thank you.